Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and I'm really excited to talk to you about NECA's brand new Bugman and Electro Zapper. Bugman was always a standout for me when I watched the show as a kid. He was both cool and super creepy. Not because I'm scared of bugs or anything like that, but because his face looked all stretched out and distorted. Like it had to hurt like hell for him to turn into this monstrosity. Electro Zapper is cool too, but Bugman is just one of those dudes that I always remembered. Even after I had stopped watching the cartoon, got a little older, Bugman was one of those characters that would just pop into my mind every now and then. And back when this line started to really take off, I even included him as number 4 on my 2021 wish list. So obviously he meant something to me, right? And NECA pretty much covered everybody I listed in that video, from the cartoon to Mirage and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure if that's parallel thinking or maybe they actually do care about me. I love you guys. It's good to know maybe you love me back. So let's get started because I cannot wait to open these guys up and start posing them with my Ninja Turtles. These guys are packaged in NECA's standard 2-pack packaging. It looks a little bit like the Turtle Van. You got the green on the top and the yellow on the bottom. These guys just came out in the past month, which was June. They cost $54.99, and I don't know, they appeared whenever NECA and Target were having whatever event that they were having this month, where they're just releasing a ton of Ninja Turtle toys all at the same time, so that you have to go mortgage your house a third time. You just dropped like almost $800 worth of stuff on me in March, man. Like, give me a break. Space this crap out a little bit. Up front, you got a very nice big window here so you can see your guys. Although this picture of Bugman really starts to take up some space there. You think there's like a human head hidden in here? I tried to look, but I couldn't see it. They'll probably just release a human figure, as a standalone, separate action figure to make you buy another 2-pack. Maybe he'll be packaged with, I don't know, maybe Baxter Stockman's brother or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. As I mentioned, on the bottom here, you have a nice illustration of Bugman. And then on the other side, you have a very nice illustration of Electro Zapper. Unfortunately, there's no credit for these illustrations, so I don't know who did them. And I haven't seen any posts that would say who it was. So if you turn the box to this side, you have a nice picture of Bugman standing there. And then if you take it to the other side, you have a picture of Electro Zapper. Electro Zapper reminds me of somebody, but I can't picture it. Maybe he's kind of got like the head shape of like Yo Noid or something like that. Maybe I'll figure it out by the end of this video, but he definitely reminds me of somebody. On the back here, you have a nice shot of both Bugman and Electro Zapper. Not the most dynamic poses, but they're fine. These guys are kind of big and, their body parts sort of take up a lot of room, so I don't know, they're kind of on top of each other here. It's cool to see that it looks like Electro Zapper's cape looks like cloth. Over here you just have a very generic, basic description of the Ninja Turtles. Nothing about these two guys, so it's not really worth reading. And then down at the bottom here you have some of the other 2023 figures. And as I mentioned, that's a very small amount of characters that have actually been released so far this year. And hopefully we don't get anything else until December. All right, give me a break here. You go back to the front and you look on the bottom. You can see it says Director Randy Falk, Trevor Zametz, Sculpted Fabrication, Josh Sutton, and another poll here, Tomasz Rajowski. That's Rajowski. That's it. I need to know how to pronounce that. I feel bad. But don't feel, in my hometown where there's a ton of Polish people that live there, we have a street called Kościuszko Street. That is not how you pronounce Kościuszko. It's like Kosciuszko or something like that. But everybody there pronounces it Kościuszko. And then I told my mom about it, and she's like, no, that's not how you pronounce it. I was like, I went to Monticello, and they have a video about him there, about the Revolutionary War and stuff like that, and they say Kosciuszko, and they're like, no, it's Kościuszko. It's like, come on. All right, Tim Miller, Nicole Falk, Paint, Jeff Trapp, Mike Puzo, Prototypes, Roger Fernandez, Photography, Stephen Mazurik, Packaging, Travis pack. And down at the bottom, I should just point out Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They started adding that to these new figures. You know, that did not used to be there. Maybe Nickelodeon was like, hey, you got to put us on the bottom too. So now it's time for me to open these guys up, move them around, and make sure they're up to snuff. I will be back in a second. So here they are, free from their prison of cardboard and plastic, ready to shock your senses and disgust women everywhere. Yeah, Electro Zapper, I'm gonna say it. Chicks don't dig dudes who look like a descendant of the Hamburglar. So, you know, these guys look great, but I'm gonna be honest here, alright? The beginning section of this, where I was talking about the figures and the packaging, I actually recorded that, like I said, back in, I think, June it was, of 2023. And now I am continuing this video in September of 2024. and a lot of this script was written in March of 2024. So, man, it's taken a while, but we're getting there. I actually have a few projects that have been sitting in limbo, waiting for me to finish them. It's sad, really. Just so many things have happened over the past year, you know? It's just been super, super busy. So, you know, being someone who grew up with the Fred Wolf series, Bugman here really feels like a childhood dream come true. He's got such an intriguing look, and I think his costume is just pretty neat looking, you know? I especially like the colors, you know, this sort of, I don't know, forest green. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention here before I get into the character animated history, I have to say that when I originally bought this 2-pack back in June, I didn't notice for the longest time that my Electro Zapper actually had 2 of the same feet. Now, when I began to write this review back in March, I was pretty upset about this. Very, very upset, especially since I also have a Hamato Yoshi with 2 right feet that I didn't find out until many months later after I opened up the premonition of a premutation 4-pack. But luckily, back in April, I went to a Target and I randomly stumbled across another one of these 2-packs. So I bought that 2-pack, and then I took the Electro Zapper out of that one and put the one with the 2 incorrect feet back in there and returned it. You can't let NECA get away with that kind of crap, you know? 2 of the same feet is just, that's really bad. So, on to the cartoon discussion. In the original Fred Wolf series, Bugman only appeared in 2 episodes, plus a bonus that I'm going to talk about. And that's very unfortunate because Bugman was such a cool looking character, you know? I really liked him, and he was very memorable. He appeared in the Season 4 episode, Michelangelo Meets Bugman, and then he appeared in the Season 5 episode, Michelangelo Meets Bugman Again. Man, what a lazy title. I guess if he appeared a third time, it would have been called Michelangelo Meets Bugman Yet Another Time. You know, maybe they could have gone with the cliche, you know, Michelangelo Meets Bugman Resurrected. They really did a disservice to Bugman back then, I gotta say, you know. He could have been used in so many cool ways. Imagine him in Night of the Rogues. Bugman could have teamed up with the other turtle friends to beat the snot out of Anthrax and Scumbug. Maybe you could have had an episode similar to Landlord of the Flies, where Baxter not only controls an army of flies, but also controls Bugman. Sure, they've done that a lot with Splinter and the Rat King, but, you know, I would have loved to seen Baxter versus Bugman. Maybe the Turtles and the Punk Frogs could have teamed up with Bugman to fight Shredder and his evil Dimension X friends. The only problem is, the frogs keep getting distracted, you know? They want to eat Bugman. Genghis, I've told you 100 times! Get your tongue off of my metastoma! Oh, geez, Bugman, I'm sorry, but you just look so dang tasty! Yeah, we sure missed out, but, you know, that's what makes these toys so great. Now, all these years later, you can finally create dioramas to tell the stories you wished you saw on TV 30 years ago. So, as I said, Bugman appeared in 2 episodes of the show, plus a bonus, and Electro Zapper only appeared in 1 of those, which is, good for me because I don't have to explain more than 3 episodes here. In all honesty, I really don't find Electro Zapper to be that memorable of a supervillain. He's very generic, just an electric-powered supervillain. He looks like he filed his teeth. Who does he think he is? Peter Steele? If I think of Bugman, kind of think of Dr. Dome, Even though he's in, 3 panels in the beginning of Bugman's first appearance, he made an impression. I think maybe it's because he kind of reminds me of Dr. Destructo from the real Ghostbusters episode, Captain Steele Saves the Day. I feel like that cartoon and this one are pretty similar, just the similar idea. I actually prefer the way the comic book characters come to life in the real Ghostbusters episode a lot more than in this one, because in this one it's never really explained. Now, Captain Steele, the character alone, is pretty bland and not that spectacular, but I like the idea of the comic book characters taking a life of their own, as if there was something supernatural about the creation of comic books. Bugman, however, his existence in Michelangelo's world is just unanswered, It just plagues you with questions like, how the hell did he get there? If Bugman is a superhero in the city and he routinely fights crime, why is everybody shocked that he exists? Where the hell was Bugman during the earlier seasons when the Technodrome was attacking New York? I would just rather him be an actual comic book character who leaps right off the page. So, as Michelangelo Meets Bugman begins, Mikey is reading a totally bodacious issue of Bugman. The art looks very nice, and it captures a comic book style, It's different than the show's regular cartoon style. Bugman, like I said, is fighting Dr. Dome, or as he calls him, Dr. Dumb. In this intro, Bugman really makes a bad first impression because Dr. Dome immediately blasts him with his Rado gas bug bomb, and Bugman goes splat. Now, in a real comic book, this would be a good point in the story where Bugman has to develop some sort of anti-Rado protective gear, but, we never find out what happens because Splinter pulls the comic book out of Mikey's hand and commands him to get to ninja practice. This scene is pretty funny, I gotta say, because I love how Mikey calls Splinter man here, and Splinter gets all offended, like a total dad response. Man, is this how you refer to me? What's next? Rat-faced dude guy? That's good stuff. Now, we have actually gotten this comic book before with these NECA action figures. It was released here. So, Mikey goes to ninja practice, and here we get some other great quotes. I like the Turtles singing to Mikey as he arrives. Well, hey there, bro, it's Michelangelo. Great, but late Michelangelo. Whoa! I don't know. It's a nice scene, I gotta say. During the practice, the lights go out in the lair, and the other 3 turtles take their flashlights to investigate the unusual blackout. Mikey, on the other hand, decides to head back to his room, light a candle, and get back into his Bugman comic. Mikey, you're like a kindred spirit, man. I would do that too. Here's a quick question for everybody. Anybody else try to read comics after bedtime? Reading right next to your nightlight. You could barely read it, but you tried. I know I did. Unfortunately, Mikey can't even get through a single panel because before he can start to read, he hears a cry for help. And another. And another. So, being the super good guy that he is, Mikey investigates. That's when he finds Brick Bradley floating down the sewer river, wrapped in a Listenite chain. After Mikey pulls Brick out of the water, Brick tells Mikey to toss the chain because the Listenite drains his power. And it's at that moment that Mikey knows that he's face to face with his hero. What's kind of interesting here is Bugman is shocked that someone knows his secret identity. Like, dude, it's in the comic book, man. Everybody knows. And as I said before, Mikey is shocked to learn that his favorite hero is real. Again, I have some questions, Brick tells Mikey to keep his secret because he has enemies. Like, dude, as I said, all they gotta do is read a freaking comic book and they'll know. If Jim Shooter's the editor-in-chief, he's got to make sure the reader reads in every single issue your real name, your origin, and a list of all your weaknesses. So, just like a comic book, the next order of business is Bugman has to tell Mikey his origin. Some superfan Mikey is, he doesn't even know. So, Brick grew up as a kid obsessed with bugs. When he went to college, he decided to learn entomology, the study of insects. While attempting to test the effects of light spectrums on different species, including termites, spiders, flies, grasshoppers, wasps, scorpions, and roaches. I think maybe he said ants too, I can't remember. He fell into a table of all of these insects, and he succumbed to the laser light show. Oh, dude. This would go so well with Dark Side of the Moon. So, supposedly the intense light fused the insect's DNA molecules with his own. Now, whenever he gets angry, his body mutates and transforms him into Bugman. Now, I gotta say, this transformation scene always stuck out to me as a kid because it is horrific. Everything looks so much more painful than the typical, Hulk transformation. Something about the stretching of the mouth always made me think that's gotta hoit. And the antennas, they just rip right out of his scalp. Bugman tells Mikey his powers. He can leap like a grasshopper. He can gnaw like a termite and fly like a wasp. Like a tiny ant, see, he did say ant, he can lift 30 times his own weight. And again, he states whenever his emotions overpower him, he turns into Bugman. So Mikey says that he knows which creepy foe bugs Bugman the most. You guessed it, Electro Zapper. We've also gotten that comic book before too. It was included here. Bugman says that he recently surprised Electro Zapper in his secret hideout, which is out near the power plants. It was that fight that turned off the city's power. And unfortunately, Electro Zapper was able to defeat Bugman with the help of that Leastonite chain. That, of course, is when Mikey gets the most tubular idea ever. Team up to defeat the fearsome foe. Bugman power and turtle power together at last, because, viewer, you asked for it. Bugman and Mikey head out in the turtle van, and this use of the garage is actually really cool because the van is springed off into action, This is the only time that I ever saw this happen in the series, when I made my nearly 3-hour-long complete Turtle Van history video. You should check that out. I know it's a shameless plug, but I gotta do what I gotta do. Even after the van is shot off, the scenes of the van driving around in the sewers is pretty cool. Meanwhile, while all this excitement is taking place, the other 3 turtles return to the lair, and Donnie turns on the lights. Leonardo says, "Nice repair, Donatello." But if the power went out because of Electro Zapper by the power plant, wouldn't the only way for the electricity to work is either turn it back on at the source or turn on a generator? Donatello just responds that the electric current has been weird lately. Next, the turtles find Mikey's note where he says he left with Bugman to fight Electro Zapper, and they just laugh and laugh and laugh. Mikey and Bugman arrive at Electro Zapper's evil lair, and they run into April, who's doing a story on the city's recent power failures. April's got a hunch that something weird is going on because, as she says, she can feel it in her bones. Nah, April, you're just getting old. It's gonna rain. just like Grandma says. Now here's where things, of course, continue to be weird, because April doesn't recognize Brick or know who Bugman is. Now, if anyone in the city should know that there's a costume superhero gallivanting, around saving old ladies and fighting supervillains, it should be April. She's Channel 6's #1 reporter, for goodness sake. I don't even think she knows that the Electro Zapper exists. Never missing a moment to find a man, April says that Brick is a super hunk. That's when the trio find Electro Zapper's secret listening device, which cracks me up. I mean, secret, that thing is huge. What I think is embarrassing is Brick tries to break that antenna, and he can't do it. Right in front of April. I mean, come on, dude. That's April O'Neil. You only get one chance with April O'Neil. Way down underground, Electro Zapper is under the power plant. Here he's draining all the power into himself. He says when he's at full capacity, he'll be able to control all the electrical current everywhere. He'll be all powerful. Back up top, Mikey breaks Electro Zapper's antenna, and that causes this large computer to explode. Something was not wired correctly. So Electro Zapper goes to the surface to attack, I like this tube. It's like going to the bank. Up top, April, again, proves that she's not the greatest reporter, because she says, Bugman, Electro Zapper, did I just stumble into a comic convention? And then she says, I don't know who you are, but you're going to be on the 11 o'clock news. They're Bugman and Electro Zapper, April. You just said their names. You should know they're real. Seriously, why doesn't anybody know them? So Electro Zapper shoots his electric bolts at April, nearly killing her, but Mikey manages to save her. Due to the long-lasting effects of the Listanite chain, Bugman is still having a little bit of trouble changing into Bugman. So Mikey stomps on his foot. It's a good move, Unfortunately, I don't think April thinks you're a hunk anymore, buddy, because April says that he's totally repulsive. Well, don't worry, buddy, because Irma will settle for anything at this point. Just give her a call. So Mikey tells April to sit back and relax while he and Bugman take care of the Zap Master. Geez, Mikey, why you always got to get up in April's business? And here it's revealed that April has twisted her ankle. Not good. So Bugman attacks Electro Zapper. He flies above him while Zapper shoots at him. Bugman spins around super fast, and then his tail kind of flies over the top of Zapper, and he says, "Suffer my scorpion venom, villain." But it didn't really look very convincing that he actually used the tail to attack him. It doesn't matter because Zapper's not really affected by it anyways. Mikey moves in for an attack, but Zapper zaps him out of the air. Next, Bugman uses these purple stingers to cover Electro Zapper in webs. I know things are getting really exciting, but now we got to go back to the lair where Donatello reads Mikey's comic, and him and Raph and Leo still decide that Bugman isn't real. I know, it's a little uneventful. But back at the plant, Electro Zapper shoots some rocks, which reveals a large chunk of Listanite. Now, Bugman turns back to Brick, and Zapper electrocutes Mikey. Brick and Mikey are captured. April, I guess, wasn't good enough to go into one of these capsules, so he just left her up top, left her to burn. Yeah, that's right. Because up top, some of the electric wires light some newspapers, and now she's in a death trap, because every episode she's got to be in a death trap. Back down in Electro Zapper's lair, Electro Zapper uses these tubes to drain Mikey and Bugman of their energy. All right, so once again, back at the turtle lair, the guy's TV goes out, and Donatello notices The wavelength pattern of the interference is highly unusual. So naturally, he decides that Mikey's note must be real finally, and Electro Zapper must exist. So the turtles leave to go check out the power plant. I really like these cool looking turtle jet skis. I would love for NECA to put out something like this, something a little smaller than the turtle van, something a little cheaper. So, luckily, the guys arrive just in time to save April, because of course they do. Raph uses Donatello's back as a catapult to fling April to safety. Jeez, watch your hands, Raph. This is a kid's show. And then Leonardo catches her. And man, again, these turtles, they need to keep their hands to themselves. Back down in the Zapper lair, Mikey kicks a hole through the plastic tube. Electro Zapper shoots at him, but Mikey dodges. And that allows the Electro Zapper bolt to blow a hole in Bugman's tube. More importantly, this allows Mikey the chance to grab the Listonite rock and throw it away. He actually throws it at Electro Zapper's machine, which causes it to explode. Everything explodes down here. Electro Zapper continues to shoot Mikey, and I really like the red effect they use for his electricity. It's very cool looking. Mikey's too good to get hit, but then Electro Zapper reflects the energy off the walls, and they hit Mikey. Things are looking pretty bleak right here, but then Bugman reveals he's back, and he smashes Zapper right through a wall. Electro Zapper heads to the surface with that cool bank tube. But Bugman and Mikey follow him up top. Not only that, but the other turtles are up there too, so things aren't going to end well for him. This fight is actually pretty cool. I like it. It's pretty fun. There is a nice exchange where Electro Zapper tries to blast Bugman with his beams, and then Bugman comes back by trying to whip him in the face with his tail, but he misses. Here, Electro Zapper completely disintegrates Donatello's bow. This is kind of weird. Here he goes in to electrocute Donnie, but his arms get spiderwebbed, so he has to blast all around, which I think is by accident. And then in the next shot, the webs are completely gone. They've disappeared, and he just acts like he meant to shoot all around. He tries to capture April, but Mikey uses his grappling hook to trip him. Bugman flies her to safety, and man, she's got to be thinking, ugh, this dude is nasty. I hope he doesn't think I'm going to be kissing him anytime soon. Boy, I sure hope April's into aloe grooming. I'm so sick and tired of cleaning these antennae by myself. Once again, Electro Zapper tries to get away, this time by boat, but Bugman uses his termite mandibles to eat the boat's wood. As Electro Zapper falls into the water, he explodes. The cops catch him, and I got another question. Who called the cops? Now look, despite my jokes, I still love this episode. It's a classic. I'll always remember Bugman. This was a really good one. I just kind of wish that Bugman, him existing in the world made more sense. In the next episode, they explain a little bit why that there's a comic book, but as I said, give me a reason why it's a surprise that Bugman and Electro Zapper exist in this world. I didn't mention it before, but Electro Zapper really takes a beating in this episode. First, he's smashed through a wall. He's constantly sitting around things as they explode, so his ears are damaged. Finally, at the end of the episode, he blows up himself when he falls in some water. And worst of all, after he's hurled tens of feet in the air, he lands in a split. Now, no wonder he can't fight off the cops as they drag him away, because I gotta imagine his legs are dislocated. Up next is the Season 5 episode, Michelangelo meets Bugman again. This episode opens with Mikey and Raph heading to the local newsstand. Mikey's got one thing on his mind. comics. He sure reminds me of me when I was a kid, and a teenager, and a 20-year-old, and now a 40-year-old. Mikey's looking at Mushroom Man, the Teen Twinkies, and Super Wombat, but he's horrified to see that Bugman is missing. Even worse, the newspaper dude tells him the book's been canceled. I understand. I don't know what I'd be able to do if they canceled Ninja Turtle comic books. Luckily, Raph tries to lighten the mood instead of make fun of Michelangelo like he usually does, and he asks him, "What's the big deal? You know the real Bugman." Mikey agrees that, yeah, that is pretty cool. And of course, he has to retell Bugman's origin, because this is a superhero cartoon, and you gotta do that. You always gotta say the origin. During the origin, he also mentions that someone spied on Bugman and revealed all of his secrets in the comic book. So, isn't supporting the comic bad, bud? Like, shouldn't you have done the right thing and not supported this trash mag that's giving out all your friends' secrets? Anyway, Mikey says the comic is called The Adventures of Bugman, and he's worried that he hasn't heard from Brick in a while. While this is happening, some weird dweeb is watching the guys from a distance, taking notes on everything they say. When they try to return home, he follows them. But luckily, Donnie's sewer intruder alert system goes off. All the turtles leave the lair to confront the dweeb, but embarrassingly fall through a bridge, pull down a pipe, get trapped in that pipe, and then get covered in trash when they try to remove the pipe. It's funny, but, come on, you guys, you look like a bunch of dorks. In this episode, I noticed Splinter has a different voice. I believe it's Townsend Coleman is doing the voice of Splinter here. Just thought I should point that out. Mikey decides to go search for Bugman on his own, while the other three guys search for the creep who was trying to follow them home. Mikey heads to Bugman's house, and secretly, the twerp follows him. That's when the twerp gets attacked by some thugs, so Mikey has to save him. What's interesting is these robbers, or thugs, or whatever you want to call them, they actually appeared in the very first episode of Bugman. Michelangelo meets Bugman. They had a very small part, but they were there. After Mikey saves him, he reveals his identity. His name is Jerry Spiegel. Obviously, it's a spoof on Superman's co-creator, Jerry Siegel. Also, this silver lining saving and loan looks a lot like Bugman's science building from the first episode. Next, Mikey goes to Channel 6 to research this Spiegel fella, and Irma tells him that Spiegel briefly gained fame and fortune by writing the Adventures of Bugman comic book. Yeah, that little pipsqueak is the guy who spied on Bugman. Apparently, he was the only person in the city that knew he existed, wrote a comic book about him, and now he plans to do the same. Only now he's going to do it to the turtles. Mikey doesn't know that yet, but we do. Come on. So he goes to talk to the editor of Bugman Comics. Her name is Juliet Schmooze. Actually, he doesn't go. He calls her. Take a look at this billboard outside of her window. Inside our office, I like all of these posters of these different superheroes. You can see Tree Man. It's pretty neat. But here's a question. Why is Butterman a football player? And what's the third? Super Smoke? Snake? What is it? I also think the painted marble here looks really nice too. That furniture. Like some of that. Juliet tells Michelangelo that the reason they canceled Bugman was because the real Bugman sued them for, copyright infringement. So Mikey finally gets what the little twerp is planning to do. Spy on him and make a comic book about him. I like how Irma's like, boy, it'll be bad if he tells the world where your lair is and your favorite pizza place. Doesn't Shredder know that already? And also how they're friends with Irma and April. I'm pretty sure Shredder knows almost everything about the Ninja Turtles. So things sort of shift here, and we're introduced to this episode's villain, the Swatter. The Swatter just stole a large amount of genetically altered termites from Designer Gene's research facility. These termites eat metal, concrete, and plastic. The swatter uses his hypno ray to control the termites. Under his control, he sends them out to terrorize the city. The first thing they do is consume the conspicuous consumption shopping mall, which just happens to be empty, thankfully. They had to throw that in, so that your mom didn't get all up in a tizzy. In my opinion, designer jeans should have to pay for this because, who makes super powerful termites? Nobody likes termites. Next, Swatter goes to the entire state building where he uses the roof's transmitting equipment to set a trap for the turtles. Back at the CC shopping mall, the termites eat a ledge and send April down to her doom. Man, knew that was about to happen. April could never go unscathed. Now, this scene actually really upsets me because somehow I missed this damn scene when I was making my Turtle Van Ultimate History video. And I also missed it when I was making my NECA Turtle Van review, The guys show up here and Leo uses the turtle launcher to catch April. That really drives me crazy because I was trying to cover every single time the guys used the turtle launcher. I don't understand what happened, how I missed this, but I also missed another episode with the turtle launcher when I made the first version of that video. Whenever Splinter used the turtle launcher. I don't know what happened. Both, I had stills from the other episode and this episode in my turtle launcher folder, but somehow I either didn't copy all of the photos from that folder into the final folder, or I think maybe what I did eventually was I just went all through the episodes again and copied the screenshots that I needed and must have left those two out. It really drives me crazy. And I apologize. And, for stuff like that, I always leave like a posted note. Like the first comment is always tacked there or pinned so that, anything I miss, I try to put in that pinned comment that you can read and be like, oh, well, this should have been here too. Maybe eventually I'll have update number 2. I would like to eventually. So the launcher is similar to the launcher in What's Michelangelo Good For? And also in Donatello's Bad Time, where it's just a segment of the roof that fires Leonardo. So in order to stop the termites, Mikey takes the van to look for Bugman, and the other 3 turtles head to the entire state building to confront the swatter who's been threatening the city with a loudspeaker. Mikey learns of Bugman's new address, so he heads to the Happy Vale Meditation Center. Here he finds Bugman meditating. Omni, money, nice. Bugman says that after his identity was revealed, he was hounded to the point of losing his mind. So he came to the Happy Vale Meditation Center to learn how to find inner peace. With some cool meditation techniques, that is. Is that a blonde April there? Kind of looks like it. Now, Bugman, or Brick, can completely control his anger. He says he's Brick for good now. He'll never be Bugman again. His next meditation is Omni, Larry, Curly, Shirley. But Michelangelo won't stand for it. He grabs Bugman and throws him into the turtle van. Now, see, I had that in my van video. So it's just the other scene I missed. Mikey's going to try as hard as he can to make Brick mad again, but he doesn't do a very good job. While this is happening, the termites are heading towards the Channel 6 news building. And man, just like Splinter, Vernon here is voiced by Townsend Coleman. So just an interesting fact, a little tidbit. The other 3 turtles confront the swatter. And at first they laugh because, who wouldn't? Look at that little goofball. But in all fairness to that goofball, he does hurt them with his swatters. And he ends up capturing them in a giant sheet of super fly paper. So, boo-boo, sucks to be you, Ninja Turtles. Mikey and Bugman drive back to the city, and even though Mikey continues to plead with Brick, Brick doesn't give 2 craps about the threat against the city. He's happy just being Brick, and he He thinks the city's problems aren't his own. He can't be concerned with material things like shopping malls. So Mikey moves on to insults. But again, Brick brushes them off. He's honestly found true tranquility. And nothing bothers him. Yet, Mikey and Brick reach the Channel 6 news building, and Mikey almost gets Brick to turn into Bugman when he mentions that April is in danger. But it's not enough, because April shows up safe from harm. Now, where Mikey failed, April actually succeeds because April finally pushes him over the edge when she starts to make fun of him for wearing silly-looking robes. I understand this completely, you know. Nobody wants their lady to say that they look like a schlub. She also says he's turning red in the face. And, you know, Brick gets even madder because he's a peaceful man now, damn it. You know, why won't she listen to him? And finally, he turns to Bugman. So he uses his antennas to talk to the swarm of termites, and he asks them to leave. He tells them to go back to where they came from. Next, Mikey and Bugman head up to the entire state building roof, where they find the swatter asking the other turtles a bunch of questions about their personal lives. Now, if you didn't already know the moment he put on this silly swatter outfit, you probably guessed it here that this dude is Jerry Spiegel. But I think they still want you to be surprised at the end of this episode when you find out who he really is. You know, for some reason, when Mikey and Bugman jump out of the elevator, Mikey's riding on Bugman's back. He's just riding piggyback up the elevator. What a goofball. Bugman shouts, "All right, Swatter, prepare to be bugged." And then the fight is on. Swatter is actually pretty good here. Like, he's actually looks pretty athletic. You know, he's hopping over Bugman's tail attacks. That's pretty impressive. Then Swatter uses his Bug Zapper ray to clip Bugman's wings, so to speak. I find it funny that his rays are red, just like Electro Zappers. But Swatter's Zapper don't really do any harm, so the Swatter pulls out this weapon, which turns out to be a smoke bomb filled with bug spray. Luckily, while this is happening, Mikey frees the other guys, and Donatello uses a trash can to cover the bomb. Now everybody's safe. The heroes grab Swatter, and Bugman pulls off his head. It was actually Jerry Spiegel all along. Can't believe it. Jerry needed to know more about the Turtles for his new comic, as we already know. But now, he's going to jail. Hopefully Jerry's not going to federal prison, or else he's going to be writing romance comics from now on. Back at the lair, Bugman thanks the guys for their help to catch Jerry, so he can live a normal life now. He says if they ever need help fighting crime, they can count on Bugman. Oh, Bugman, I wish they took you up on that one. There's so many episodes where you would have fit in so well. I love how this episode ends with the guys laughing about the idea of someone reading a Ninja Turtle comic book. And then, lo and behold, Mikey's got one stored away in his bed. Oh, this is another great one. I like the Swatter. I would love a toy of him. I like Spiegel too, you know, but obviously the Swatter, he's just a cool design. He's just a ripoff of the Shredder, except he's goofy looking. The episode has a nice, funny premise. And, I mean, I guess I would have liked to see Bugman in action more. You know, he's only really in it at the end. I think with both episodes, we get like a decent idea of what powers he has, but it would have been cool to see him use them more. Okay, so here's the bonus. In the Season 7 episode, The Star Child, we see a brief appearance by Bugman. Sort of. Now, I'm not going to review this entire episode because maybe in the future, NECA will put out a Star Child action figure and I'll talk about it then. You know, after they have exhausted every other character they possibly can from this show. I will say this, I do really like the alien ripoff ship design throughout the episode. That's probably my favorite thing about the episode, to be honest with you. Mostly the episode centers around the Turtles trying to both protect and stop the alien child Quarks from causing trouble in the city. He's got superpowers, so of course, you know, the episode is filled with the usual, like, I don't know, child or baby cliches that you would see in every other cartoon like this. As I said, they're trying to protect him too, so there are these like really cool looking aliens that are trying to get him. Some of these don't necessarily look like Ninja Turtle designs to me, they just look very 90s designs, I would say. So, when the turtles first meet Quarks, they take him to the lair, where the turtles give him some of Mikey's toys to play with. Mikey says he better not lose any of the accessories. And here you can see that Quarks is using his telekinetic powers to fly Mikey's Bugman action figure around the room. There's also some cool looking bugs, those two other ones that I don't think they're from anywhere else in the show. It is nice to see Bugman at least pop up one other episode. I guess maybe he made some kind of licensing agreement so that they can make action figures of him. Everything seems happy and good in the sewers. That is until Quarks decides to get rid of Bugman and play with some other toys. Now, I'm sure the turtles are, happy that they didn't get stabbed with these weapons. But we all know that Mikey's just happy that Quarks didn't throw the Bugman action figure at him and possibly ruin its mint condition. And one final thing, I try to remember if Bugman has appeared in any of these Saturday Morning Adventure comics. And unfortunately, I don't think he's played like a major part in any story that I can remember, which is, a shame. I think Eric Burnham has been doing a great job with these Ninja Turtles comics. And it would be cool to see Bugman in a new adventure with Michelangelo. He does appear in this issue, which is number 15. You might have this cover down here. In this, the Ninja Turtles are put into a mental conditioning machine that's supposed to, I guess turn them onto these guys' side. I can't remember. It's been a while since I read this, but that guy's name is Golgotha. And basically, like I said, they're trying to use this machine to make the Ninja Turtles a part of their evil team. But in this dream sequence that Michelangelo is having, which obviously looks just like the dance floor in the opening of the show, you can see Bugman down here along with so many other characters. And Dan Schoening, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, usually does a really nice job including a lot of Easter eggs of different characters. Even when he did the Ghostbuster comics, I didn't like those as much as these Ninja Turtle comic books, but it was always cool to see like all the Easter eggs that he would throw in the backgrounds. But there you go. You have Bugman down here, and then on this page, you can see Bugman again right there behind that word bubble. Although I don't think he actually becomes Bugman. It looks like he's just Brick. And yeah, that's it. In both panels. All right. After that, just real quick, there are some superheroes that influence Mikey throughout the other Ninja Turtle cartoons. In the 2003 show, Mikey sees Silver Sentry, and he decides to become Turtle Titan. In the 2012 series, one of Mikey's favorite comic books is Wingnut and Screwloose. And in that episode, they actually leap out of the comic book, like they should have in the original Bugman episode, and he teams up with them in his Turflidle persona. But in that Wingnut and Screwloose episode from the 2012 series, they eventually become monsters, and there's some pretty cool scenes. I really like that episode. So let's talk about cartoon accuracy. Right off the bat, let me begin by saying I think Bugman looks great. He's very much on model. I do think that sometimes in the first episode, he appears a little bulkier. But I think when they were making this action figure, they were using the most reference from the second episode. Like this shot here. I mean, that looks almost exactly like this action figure. The lines on the wings are almost exactly the same. You know what? Don't listen to me, because in that second episode, Bugman appears to be very bulky too. I think maybe the body might be more like Brick when he's in his human form. He's not as muscular, but he's still muscular. Also, one thing you'll notice in the second episode is the costume, kind of has a little more green in it. Like a almost pine green. That's how this toy looks. I mean, look how green that is. It's like a emerald green or something like that. I don't even know. In the first episode, his suit is blue. Just straight up blue with some green highlights. Except for this one shot right here where he does look like he's got a green outfit on. So what's up with that? One thing missing from this action figure, but only appears in the first episode, is there is a green stripe that goes down the leg. I think this only appears there when he's human. After he becomes Bugman, it's not there. Bugman's face is such a nasty looking mug. You can see that he has these like huge bulging red eyes with yellow pupils. You have these purple mandibles down here, which, if you'll remember, they come from termites. And in the first episode, he used them to eat Electro Zapper's boat as he was trying to escape. Look how long that face, like, protrudes. That is so weird looking. What a weird design, but it's great. I like his green antennas, and if you remember, in the second episode, he used these antennas to communicate with the swarm of termites that were about to attack the Channel 6 news building. Not only does he have to deal with, looking ugly, because he looks like a bug, but he also has like this really extreme receding hairline. Poor guy. I don't think it's as bad in the first episode he appears in, but in the second one, man, it is so exaggerated. What a bummer. Not even insect powers can protect you from male pattern baldness. And again, I should mention, as a kid, watching these antennas pop out of his head, it kind of grossed me out. On the front of his torso, he has this Bugman logo. And, throughout both episodes, that design stays pretty consistent. There's not really any interesting variations or anything like that to it. They pretty much kept it on model. The only thing I would point out is you have these two lines that make up the collar, right? And here it's disconnected from the head, but lots of times in the cartoon, it almost looks as that collar is supposed to be like the bug head's antennas. Sometimes it looks, a little separated, but here it's very separated. Like I would not look at this and think that collar is supposed to be connected to the bug head. I don't have much to say about this belt or these Wolverine arm ports. It's kind of basic looking, nothing too exciting. I mean, I do like it. I like the overall shape of the costume. It's cool. Kind of reminds me kind of like like a 50s kind of space traveler kind of guy, like the main character in like a space show. I don't know if maybe like Buck Rogers. I've never seen that, but that's what the kind of thing it would remind me of. As I showed you before, the wings look very similar to this shot right here. It's kind of funny. Like every time Brick turns into Bugman, the wings rip out the back of the shirt, and so does the tail. Do you think he has to resew this thing every day, or do you think he has a closet filled with the same shirt? Sometimes the tail looks a little differently too. Like sometimes it just looks like a little thin piece coming out of the back of his back. And then other times it looks like there's a huge piece of tail there to allow it to move a little better. I like the tail. It looks like, how you would think it would look. I think that maybe you could make the argument that it'd be nicer if it was, maybe like a rubbery wired tail or something like that, because even though there is some articulation here, it still is like a little limited. I kind of don't like how it's connected right to the back of him right here. It feels very fragile, like this thing would just pop off at any moment or crack that little ball inside of there. In the first episode, Bugman says that his tail can deliver a poisonous sting. He never hits anybody with it, though, although he tries. He tries to hit Electro Zapper with his tail, and he also tries to hit the swatter with his tail, but unsuccessfully connects both times. Back to the front, I'm sure these purple appendages that stick out of his shoulders are supposed to be spider legs, because in the first episode, he shoots webs out of them. And yeah, I know spiders shoot webs out of their butt, but, you know, close enough here. Now, if you're a Spider-Man fan like me, one thing you'll like about this action figure is the mix of purple and green, you know, because purple and green make up so many Spider-Man villain colors. It's the best color combination. And hey, it even works on heroes like the Prowler. I like him. He's got these Batman spikes on his arms. He could use these, I'm sure, to break swords and shoot into enemies' faces. No, I don't think he would ever do that, but I mean, that's what Batman did in the Christopher Nolan movies. I mean, I guess maybe some insects have like spikes on their legs like that, so it makes sense, but I don't know. It just kind of looks to me like they're ripping off Batman. You know, it kind of makes you wonder, why didn't they give him like bug pincers for hands or something like that? Instead of regular hands and just these spiky bits right here. Would that have made him like too creepy? Now down to the legs. And man, this is like one dark ass action figure. I swear, it is hard to like this guy because this color is really dark. The green is really dark. He's just so dark. As I said before, when he's a human, he actually has that stripe going down the side of his leg. But when he's Bugman, he never seems to have it. He wears these like, I don't know, Wolverine-style boots. And then he's got two toes down at the bottom. It's exciting, right? There's not much else to really say about the legs. You know, there's no excessive detail or anything. I do like the sculpt. I like the wrinkles around the boot there. It gives a nice illusion of like cloth or whatever. Material, bending and folding. When it comes to paint, Bugman looks pretty good. Some of these ink lines are pretty globby compared to what they usually are. One of the funniest bits, I think, is right here in the pecs, because there's no like muscle definition there, so it just kind of has like these funny pecs drawn on. The other thing I wanted to point out was, down here, there seems to be like a little bit of white inside of this joint. See, right in there. I don't know why it's white like that. I kind of thought maybe, yeah, it's white over here on this side too. I was wondering if maybe that part of the leg was white and then they colored it green, which just seems kind of crazy. Bugman's articulation is pretty good. There's a ball joint at the base of his head right here, so you can look up so high. You can look up down below. There's also a ball joint at the base of the neck here, which, you know, helps all this. You can turn to the head, rock it to the side, turn it around so he's looking this way. You know, it's got pretty decent movement, I would say. There seems to be a ball joint right here in this upper torso, so you can look down. I mean, he's got some pretty decent range here. You can rotate, well, as you try to rotate the upper torso, the waist rotates with it, but you can get some rotation there, or rock it side to side. It's up to you. The shoulders have a hinge and a swivel, although the Wolverine piece right here and also the spider legs kind of get in the way a little bit, so you're going to be limited, but it's not that bad. You should be able to do some decent things with them. The spider legs actually rotate around too, which is nice, because you can, you know, try to make them look like they're attacking or have them pointing up as he's standing looking super. The bicep swivels. He's got double jointed elbows. And then the wrist here can swivel, and there's a hinge. So overall, so good, right? The hips here have the standard NECA hips where you have a ball in there. The hip sort of wraps around that, and then the larger hip piece wraps around that. So you got double like rotation in there, which is good. I'm very happy with the NECA hips. I feel like they're always pretty good. Sometimes they're too stiff maybe to start to rotate them, but I don't know. They always seem to work out pretty well. I think the hardest part with NECA toys is always the knees. Lots of times they're very stiff. Once you start moving them, they're pretty good. I don't know. That's where I always like worry, is breaking the knees or the elbows. There is not a boot cut. Oh yeah, there is. Just my other one isn't moving yet. So there's a boot cut there. And then there's a hinge in the ankle and ankle rockers. Oh yeah, the back. The wings here have nice rotation and a hinge, so hopefully you should be able to get some nice dynamic poses with him. Does the antenna move at all? I don't think so. They seem to be pretty cemented there in the head. And then the scorpion tail, all right? So you could rotate around this direction, and you can kind of rotate up a little bit. You know, there's obviously a ball in there, but it's still like very limited. And like I said, it always feels like it's going to pop off. And now I got to give some credit to Spaded One McDysentery, because he told me there were a few extra points of articulation on the tail that I didn't know about. Some points that a lot of other reviewers never even noticed. So there's a point of articulation right here, in this bit right there. You can rotate that around. Then the next three stay the solid. Now, I guess it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those don't move. But then this one right here can rotate around. Yeah. And then there's another rotation right here at the bottom of the tail. I still kind of wish that, like, I don't know, it was more of like a bendy tail situation. It's very limited, and like it's so straight, like right here. Like this especially is where you want it to bend a little bit to try to make it look dynamic or natural or something like that. Like it just points straight down, and it's just kind of limited to what you can do with him. I mean, pretty much the best way to do it is just kind of have it like in a regular position like this. Or like that. And that is it when it comes to articulation. Now let's take a look at Electro Zapper. Electro Zapper here, I think he's got a cool look, but I also feel like he looks super silly. He's like different parts conflict with each other. Like he's got like a cool electric helmet, but like these giant clown shoes, they don't work together well. Like, who is he? Sideshow Bob's brother? He's also got like somewhat muscular pecs, but like a softer midsection. I actually kind of think that maybe he might be a little too cartoony for the old Ninja Turtles cartoon. Like, his face is so exaggerated, it almost doesn't look like it fits in with that world. Like, especially if you look at him next to April, they don't really seem to match. They don't really match Bugman either. I mean, the way his ears sort of like, I don't know, pushed downward, they're kind of weird. He just seems like stylistically he should be more of a Chippendale Rescue Ranger character. Like, I could see him fighting the Rescue Rangers. I actually would like to know more about Electro Zapper. Like, what made him turn to the side of evil? He wears all these batteries, so I assume his origin has something to do with those. Did he create a super-powered mega battery that was then stolen by his boss, who used it to become a millionaire? At first, Electro Zapper could have been focused on his shady superior, but after Bugman stopped him from electrocuting his boss to death, he could have shifted that focus and focused on the lousy vigilante. Maybe, as a child, Electro Zapper was addicted to licking 9-volt batteries. He enjoyed the pain, much like you did when you kept sticking your tongue in the slit of your plastic Halloween mask. It's maddening. Only, unfortunately for Electro Zapper, the last time he licked a battery, it was leaking. So the acid burned down his teeth into these pointy nubs. His disfigured appearance caused him to go insane and grow distant from the rest of society. Now, his only friends are the batteries that he wears around his arms and belt. He doesn't need humanity because he'll never be alone again. There's only one problem. Eventually, battery power runs out. So he's always looking for more electricity to recharge his little friends to maximum power. I thought a cool real name for him could be Max Watts. I mean, sure, you have Max Dillon, that's Electro, but I don't know, Max Watts is still kind of cool. I also learned that there's a DJ out there named Max Watts, so never mind. What do you think his origin could be? Also, what do you think is a good real name for him? Let me know in the comments. Now back to the likeness. Electro Zapper wears a bluish-gray headpiece that goes all the way to the back of his head, and this red robber mask. I like the lightning bolts. Obviously, it reminds you of Electro, but they're still very unique. I like how they're kind of coming out of his eyeballs. I like both this head and also the... Oh no! It broke off. I'm gonna have to super glue this now. Well, I also like the sharp teeth head, but mine has this little red mark on the lip. I'm not sure if I did that or if it came like that. I don't know. Man, I'm so bummed about that. That electric bolt pulling off of there. I think it should be an easy fix, but still, it's a bummer. He wears a cape, and there's a knot right here underneath his neck, so you have like these two strands of cloth hanging down. On his chest, he's got this gigantic battery. He wears red, and he's got yellow trim up here by the shoulders. I like the belt, it's a cool lightning bolt, and I like the batteries. I think NECA did a good job of including all these batteries here and painting them nice and clean. One thing I should mention is the logo looks a little different on that comic book. And of course, Bugman is all whacked out. His shoulders kind of have like, I don't know, kind of like a widow's peak or something like that. Sometimes his shoulder fabric has multiple points, and it almost looks like it's teared instead of having like a design. And then you have these batteries on his bicep. What is this? Is this like a battery connector here on the back of his wrist? I do like the his gauntlets. Those are pretty cool. I like the 2 points right here. And of course on his fist, he has like these bits that the electricity shoots out of. His other arm is exactly the same as the first one. There's nothing different, including this contact right here and these special rings that allow him to shoot electricity. He wears McDonald's colors. He's got these red and yellow everywhere. Like I said, he looks like maybe he's like the Hamburglar's best buddy. On his legs, he's got like, this bluish spandex or bluish grayish spandex, just like the cape and the headpiece. And then what I think is kind of funny is his boots. I feel like his boots are unusual. Like, not many men in the early 90s wore these thigh-high boots like this. They're like stripper boots. Most of the time, boots like end right here at the knee, But no, they go all the way up. Throughout this episode, there isn't much reference of what's underneath his suit, underneath that cape there. So, I think it's fair to say that NECA nailed it. Theirs, of course, is a little bulgy because of the squishy vinyl overlay that sits on the torso. Electro Zapper's articulation is pretty good, but it is more limited than Bugman's. For one thing, you only have one point of articulation here at the head. You don't have one in the base of the neck, it's just the base of the head. So he can look up, he can look down. He can look all over the place. The torso articulation here, if there is anything in there, you can't really use it because his torso is actually covered in this vinyl overlay to give him this very unique build. I can't think of any other NECA action figure that sort of has like this gut. So it's kind of squishy for one thing. But yeah, the articulation, you can't really do much with it. You can rotate on the waist, so that's good. The shoulders here have a swivel and a hinge. There's a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, a wrist swivel, and a hinge. Same hip articulation as pretty much all of these NECA Fred Wolf action figures nowadays. Another thing about his legs is like the upper leg is so much smaller, shorter than the lower part of the leg. It's kind of funny looking, actually. Did he look like that in the show? Yeah, he did actually. And then down here at the ankle, you have a hinge and ankle rockers. And like I said, he's got like these huge, gigantic clown shoes. Such a weird design, but still cool. I still like him. When it comes to scale, I would say the turtles stand up to about the height of Bugman's shoulders. Even in season 2, they seem to be around that height. So I would say that this action figure is indeed up to there. However, you know, there's sometimes you look at Bugman in that second season and he's like really hunched over, like I don't know, he looks more beast than man or something like that. But still the turtles are about the same, you know, shoulder height there to him. This action figure, you can't really put him in that like hunched over position. As I said before, he reminds me much more of like Bugman in his human form, only with the bug head. Electro Zapper, in all honesty, doesn't really have many good shots where it's just him standing side by side with other characters, you know. Even when it comes to shots with him and Bugman, it's hard to tell because either the perspective or, I don't know, it's just kind of hard to understand the sizes of these guys. I would say that, I don't know, if I would guess, he's around the same height as Bugman. So I think this action figure here is fine. In this one weird shot right here, like, he appears to be shorter than April. I think that's just like an animation mistake. Like, you know, when they were figuring out the in-betweens or something like that, they sort of drew April to be a lot taller than him. As you can see here, April is a lot smaller than this action figure. So I think this is fine. I mean, even in that scene, he's picking her up. I don't think he's going to be carrying around giant Amazon women or anything like that in the show. And just for the sake of, you know, how does this guy scale with all these other characters, I try to include, you know, decent sizes in this shot. It's really hard nowadays to get a overall idea of the scale across this line because there's so many action figures and, you know, so many characters. Like here's them next to Casey Jones. Oh my gosh, I almost knocked them all over. They scale a little taller than Casey. I think that's fine. You know, Bugman is a superhero after all. He should be 8 heads tall. And Casey is just kind of like a normal guy with a hockey mask. Here's a neutrino. So I think they are good in this series. It's just cool to see, you know, all these awesome characters. There's even characters here that, you know, are just based off of action figures. They only showed up once or twice in the cartoon, and they just look fantastic. You know, like Ground Chuck here, or I'm sorry, Dirtbag, or Wingnut, you know, Scumbug. It's kind of cool to see, you know, all these different characters from all these different seasons of the show all put together in one place. So now we're going to move on to accessories, and first up on Bugman's side, although neither of Bugman's accessories are pro Bugman, they're just I kind of lump them with him. You have this Least-A-Night chain. If you remember, Mikey found Bugman wrapped in this thing when he first drug him out of the sewer water. Least-A-Night robs Bugman of his power and leaves him motionless. In the cartoon, I wouldn't say that this is really green, you know? I would say that it just kind of looks like a gray chain. But I kind of like this green, translucent green chain that they included here because, You know, it kind of looks like Kryptonite. Maybe if you had a Superman action figure, you could actually use that with him. I do not have any Superman action figures. And it's just kind of cool looking. Like I said, I like the translucent green color. It's very neat. If you want to, you can wrap Bugman up in this Listenite chain, but I mean, you really want a Brick Bradley action figure because when he comes in contact with Listenite, he turns back to human. But, you know, this will do for now. Up next, you have a chunk of Listenite. This time it's blue instead of green. I think the sculpt in this is nice. You know, it definitely looks like a rock. In the cartoon, Electro Zapper hid this rock inside another rock, just in case, you know, he got captured by Bugman. Then he could zap it with his electric powers and reveal the Listenite inside. It instantly changes Bugman back into Brick Bradley. And then after that, Electro Zapper keeps this in Brick's containment tube to keep him from turning back into Bugman. Once Mikey is able to trick Electro Zapper into blasting Bugman's tube, he then grabs the chunk of Listenite and throws it to safety, which allows Brick to become Bugman again, and finally he can confront Electro Zapper. Up next, Bugman has 3 sets of hands, 6 hands altogether. He's got a set of fists, so you can pound your enemies. He has like a more closed gripping hand. That's mirrored for both sides. And then he sort of has like this kind of loose gripping hand with the pointer finger pointing a little bit. I kind of wish they would have given him more like a set of open hands or expressive hands, because those gripping hands are pretty similar. The only thing on Bugman's side that I can think of that would have been nice if they included it is, I don't know, I wish they would have included the comic books here, because as I said before, I never got some of those initial comic books because I never picked up those specially colored Ninja Turtle action figures, the promo color Ninja Turtles. On Electro Zapper's side of accessories, Electro Zapper just comes with a few electric effects, such as this one. This one fits his fist hand. Now, I kind of wish that some of these, they would have given him double of, you know? Like, it would have been nice to have 2 fist electric effects. You know, for the most part, he uses his fists to shoot his electric beams or his bolts at people. Almost kind of like the Shocker. That's what he kind of reminds me of. And this right-handed fist right here, there's a little hole right there in that ring that does not exist on the left-handed fist. It would have been nice if there was a hole here, and like I said, it would have been nice if they would have given you a second one of these. So you got to put this thing in here. You can find there's a little peg on this. You can plug it in there. And boom. Now you can be shooting at people. See, I don't know, just would have looked nice if you would have been able to have him like a mirrored pose on both sides with the hands. You know, because the other effects, like this one, this is for a pointer finger. So, but let's take a look at that now. So, you know, here is the pointer finger electric effect. And I really only found like one shot of him using his pointer finger to shoot one of these. Unless I'm a little mistaken, some of these look like maybe they could be pointer finger, but I'm pretty sure that they are all fist electric bolt shooting hands. So this one goes on the pointer finger like so. So, I mean, that looks good. I like it. I just kind of think it's kind of, I don't know, it would just be better if you had the same effect on both hands. Like, you wouldn't pose like that. You wouldn't pose like pointing with one hand and making a fist with the other. I think it would be kind of weird. Up next, you have this electric effect. Now, this one, just like the others, will only fit on one hand. It won't fit on this open hand. It'll fit on this one because there's a little hole there for this peg right here. And this looks like it's flipping you off. It looks like the middle finger sticking up at you. So you plug this in here. And this to me is like a charging effect, you know, like he'd be standing there getting ready to fire a beam, and he would just sort of be charging his power. And that's why, again, you know, like I wish you would have had this same effect for both hands. You know, it would look so much cooler if he could just be kind of standing there in the back, both hands charging up his power, getting ready to attack. But, you know, at the moment, you're stuck with this one, and then maybe you could use the fist hand to blast. I don't know. I just kind of wish that some of these things, you know, you could work with both sides at the same time. And last, you have these, like, electric balls. Now, when I first saw these, I thought, well, maybe it's like something that he throws in the cartoon, because there are a few shots where it kind of looks like he's almost throwing lightning bolts instead of shooting them out of his fists. But no, it's nothing like that. It's not a lightning bolt grenade or anything like that. You just put it on the tips of his fingers, like so. And you do that because of this shot right here. You know, in this shot, he's riding his elevator up to the surface and sort of, you know, charging up his power in his fingers. It's almost obscure, you know, this scene. It's just a real quick shot of him doing this with his fingers, but I think it's cool that they decided to include these here. I think in some ways you can use them to add character to what he's doing. You could almost make it look like he's about ready to shoot somebody, you know, with the one finger, and then the other finger you actually can, like, have him blasting a bolt at somebody. Electro Zapper comes with 4 sets of hands. He comes with these pointer finger hands, which I showed you. You can put either the electric balls on those, or you can use this electric device to blast people. You can pretend he's asking somebody to pull his finger. He also comes with a set of fists, which, you know, one of the effects goes to those. He has a set of gripping hands, which you can use to hold the Listenite chain if you want to. And then he also has these open palm hands, which you can use the charger electric effect, or just kind of, you know, use them for expressions. You know, maybe he's sort of putting his hand out at somebody, being like, "Halt!" You know, you got some. Like I said, you have a lot of decent options with him. You should be able to put him in nice poses, even though I think his legs are kind of funny and kind of make him stand a little weird. You know, it's kind of hard to get him into interesting poses. The hands at least will give you some options. And then you also have the extra head, which, you know, mine is broken. From the time I showed you that it was broken, I actually did super glue it back together, and then it fell off my table and popped off again, so I'm gonna have to try to super glue this stupid thing again. And that's it. Man, this review took a ridiculous amount of time to finish, but, you know, I never quit the goal, and finally, like a year and a half later, on November 8th, I'm wrapping this thing up. I like both of these action figures a lot. I think they're classic characters that deserve to be in everybody's Fred Wolf collection. They do have some flaws, you know. As I mentioned before, Electro Zapper's mine came with incorrect feet. And then, you know, Bugman, he's got that weird scorpion tail articulation that kind of makes it a little useless. What I didn't mention before, because I didn't know until I made this scene, is the tail weighs down the mid-torso joint, like, way too much. You know, it causes him to hunch over, and it's kind of hard to get him in good dynamic poses because the tail will just kind of make him, you know, a little lopsided, and you got to try to balance it, and sometimes it doesn't work out so well. Also, through making this series of action shots, his hips became loose, so then the tail weighs the hips down, all right? So even trying to get him into stances is a little difficult
because of loose articulation. I probably should have mentioned that an hour ago, but honestly, I didn't know until making these just now. After that, though, it was a lot of fun making these action shots. I still think these are pretty cool dynamic action figures. I like their suits. I think the likenesses are spot on, and I think the electric effects that are included with Electro Zapper really make him a really fun action figure. And what was even better than the electric effects was when I realized that I had NECA's electrocuted Ninja Turtle from their arcade series. Because then I could really punish the Ninja Turtles with Electro Zapper and really put them into a state of peril for Bugman to come and save them. That's what you really want. You want your villains to be scary and threatening, and then, for Bugman to come in and to beat him into submission. But let me know what you think. Did you like these guys when they first came out over a year ago? Do you still like them? Have your hips and other joints become loose over time? Have they held up better than mine? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later, and have a good one.